everybody, my name is Ghostbit and welcome to the second episode in Let's Make Our First Game in Godot. So the website you are staring at is the itch.io assets. It's called Plinko Art Asset. It's something that I created for you guys to follow along so we can make our first game. The link is down below in the description. Go ahead and click on that and it's going to lead you right to where I'm staring at right now. And you're simply going to hit on this red box that says download now. Go ahead and click on that and then it's going to give you an option to donate $2. If you want to be awesome, go ahead. You don't need to if you don't want to. The art is simple, so there's no biggie on that. It's just something simple so we can create a very small game. So we're just going to hit no thanks, just take me to the downloads. Hit that red box and it's going to download the art assets. You're going to have to unzip it. Mine's is already preset and ready to go. And you're just going to click on all 4 images and then we're going to open our Godot. I already have mine's already open, ready to go. And what we are going to do is drag and drop it right into the system. So make sure you have, let's see here, there you go. Make sure it looks like this. Godot's open first and then the art assets. And then we're going to click and drag all 4 into the sprites folder just like that, and voila, we have it all. Alright, we're going to hit the ground running here and we're going to start right away. The title of this second episode is Bodies. I'm going to go over 2 out of the 3 bodies and briefly mention the third one, but describe why we won't mention or talk about it in this series. So let's go ahead and do that now actually. We're going to go ahead and click on other node and we're going to type in body. Alright, and if you scroll down below, they give us 3. We have kinematic body 2D, rigid body 2D, and static body 2D. We're only going to go over static and rigid body. We won't do kinematic body. I will explain in a second. But first, let's do static body 2D. Now, to put it very simply, static body 2D, the way it helped me remember what this node does is basically it gives an object physics of a wall. It makes it static. It makes it immovable basically. So case in point, if you want to like make a wall or something like that, that's what static body is good for. In fact, if you look at the icon next to it, it's just like a steel box or something like that. So that's a perfect representation of what this does. The next is rigid body 2D. And what rigid body 2D, if I could put it very simple, it gives an object's physics base. It uses the physics engine that Godot provides, and it basically makes a ball a ball. You would use rigid body 2D if you wanted to, let's say, make a movable box, or maybe a bouncy grenade, or in our case, a bouncy ball. We're going to do something similar to that. And then last but not least, kinematic body 2D. I won't go over it that much here. I'm barely going to mention it. Reason being is I plan on having a separate tutorial on kinematic body. We're going to create a full-blown game. In fact, that tutorial will follow after this tutorial so you can follow along. And we're going to make a full-blown game and we're going to explain kinematic body 2D and why I use it a lot. But just to give you a short demonstration of what it is, you see like a little man next to it. And it basically has the ability to make an object move left to right and even jump. You could imagine that being very, very useful. You could technically do that with rigid body 2D though, but I'm not going to get into that. That gets very sticky very quickly on kinematic body versus rigid body. Both are well used, so there's no need to compare both of them. They just do different things, of course. Okay, of course in this tutorial we're going to focus on rigid body and static body. Alright, now that we've gone over it, let's make our game. We're going to do exactly what we did in the last tutorial. So we're going to go ahead and create a 2D scene because that is what we need. And we're going to rename this into main game. Let's call it main game. Main game. If I could spell correctly, you know. There you go. Alright, and we're going to do exactly what we did last time. We're going to assign a sprite, and we need a background image because this is getting a little annoying to see. In fact, I have my grid like on. We don't need that. That's what's getting hard to see. We're staring at nothing, so I want a background so that way we can stare at something. Let's go ahead and add a child node, and we're going to add sprite. There you go, sprite. And we're going to hit create. And voila, it's set up. We're going to rename sprite by double clicking on it and we're going to call it BG, and that's short for background. And if you have your sprites folder open, there is an image that says BG. So just like in the last episode, we're going to click and drag and we're going to create it into our textures tab right there. Let go, and voila, we have our image. But hold the phones, it's dead center. And if you remember, our screen, our game screen is this purple box. So if we were to hit play, we're only going to see a section here. To fix that, just underneath the texture and normal map, you're going to hit on offset, and it's going to collapse. And it's going to show all the properties that this has. Don't worry about any of this, but focus on this first one. It says centered, and it's clicked on. So that means that, well, it's centered. We don't want it to be centered. So go ahead and uncheck that, and voila, it's not centered anymore. But there's another issue. Our image is 320 by 180, and the default screen is, I think it's 1020 by 600, I think. Let's go check. So to mess with the settings, we're going to go to project right here. It's right next to scene. And then we're going to do project settings. And we need to find the window. So we're going to scroll down here on where you have this window here. Ignore everything else. I know there's a lot to see. And we're going to scroll all the way down into where it says window. Display window. Perfect. We're going to click on that, and the default size is 1024 by 600. We don't need that. Again, our image is 320 by 180. Go ahead and resize that. And our test width and height, this will show you what it is when we hit play. If we were to leave this blank, it's going to be a very tiny screen just like that, but we want it to do our default screen size, which is 720, which is 1270 by 720, I believe. I might be wrong. Let's go ahead and leave that. I think that's correct. I'm spacing out right now. Anyways, we're going to scroll down here, and then we're going to go all the way at the bottom where it says stretch. Now, stretch basically means what you're thinking. It's disabled right now, so if we were to stretch our window size, it's just going to show some black borders. So we're going to switch that to 2D because that's what it's made out of. And for aspect, we're going to switch ignore to keep. And that is basically what we need to do for the settings. There's no need to explain what I'm doing or what it is. All for right now is to just simply follow along. This can get messy. This can get overcomplicated. What size do I use? Blah, blah, blah. This isn't the tutorial for that. All you need to know is we switched our screen size to a smaller resolution, and we messed with our test width and height, and we messed around with the stretch mode. That's all you need to worry about. Don't worry about what we did or any of that. Just follow along. This isn't the time and place to teach you about that. Okay, and let's move on. So, and voila, our screen size is now snapped onto our image here. Now, by default, this has already been done here already on my image, but for you guys, it's probably going to be blurry. So, reason being is when you import any pixel art, Godot doesn't pick on that immediately. I will show you how to switch into pixel perfect size here. So we're going to have BG clicked on like it is, and then right next to the scene tab, there's an import tab. We're going to go ahead and click on that, and it's going to switch to import. While BG.png is clicked on, we're going to go ahead and hover over to present, and we're going to click on 2D pixel, and then you're going to simply re-import, and that should fix the blurriness that you should be staring at right now. I've already done this, so this is already fixed and it's pixel perfect, but that is what you need to do so that way your image can look perfectly. And it's that simple. Within just a click, you have pixel perfect imagery. And we can, if we hit play, it's going to tell us to save. Make sure it's saved under scene so we can stay organized. It's already done that from our last tutorial. And then it's going to launch, and we should have a nice good looking background here. That's fantastic. All right, so we're doing pretty good. Moving on. Now let's go on to our rigid body. We're going to do a rigid body because rigid body, like I explained before, gives an object mass, it gives it weight, it gives it the properties of like a bouncy ball if we need it to be. And we are creating Plinko, so that is exactly what we need. So let's go ahead and get this started. We are going to use our job system. It was very helpful. A lot of people were able to understand it more when we used that simple system. So we're going to go ahead and continue on and do that. We can always, I'll switch maybe from time to time to our normal explanation of parent and children node. Again, whatever helps you out. So in main game, if we look at this like a job system, is we need to make a game. We're going to make Plinko. This requires a lot of employees, and we need very special employees. The first employee is we need someone that can bounce and handle mass and weight. So we need to hire an employee that specializes in that. So we're going to go ahead and hit this plus button, and we're going to look for, we're going to type in body again, and we have 3 candidates, but we only need rigid body because in his job description is a body that is controlled by 2D physics engine. So if you look at that in the job description, that's exactly what we need. Kinematic body has a very poor resume. He literally just has kinematic body 2D. No, it's straight to the point. We don't need him. And static body is a static body for 2D physics. We might use him later on, but rigid body is our man. So we're going to go ahead and hire him. And rigid bodies already come with issues. Look at that. We've hired him and he's already complaining. In fact, let's rename rigid body here to Steve. So we've hired Steve here, and Steve is saying, hey, I can't function. What is he yapping on about? Let's see what he means. This node has no shape. It can't collide or interact with other objects. Considered adding a collision shape 2D or a collision polygon 2D as a child to define its shape. Basically what's happening is rigid body can't work without a collision shape. A collision shape is exactly what you think it says in the name. It's basically a shape that gives an object collision. It's that simple. But if we put this in job term, it's basically Steve complaining that I can't work, I don't have a computer. We can consider a collision shape like a computer. Steve needs his computer in order to work, so we're going to give him just that. We have Steve highlighted here, so we're going to hit the plus button, and we're going to look for collision shape. It basically told us what to look for, so we're going to type in collision, and as we're halfway through typing it in, we get 2 candidates. Just like it mentioned, collision polygon 2D or collision shape. We're going to do collision shape because collision polygon is if we need to define a very complex shape. We don't need to define a complex shape. It's just going to be around a circle. So, I mean, that's simple. So we do go with collision shape 2D. And then we hit create. And now collision shape is complaining. And it's saying that a shape must be provided for collision shape 2D to function. So if we were looking at this in our job system, basically Steve now has a computer. I mean, if we want, we can just name this computer. And the computer is basically saying, hey, I'm not plugged in. Let's plug it in. So let's go ahead and unshape. This is over in our inspectors tab. We have something that says shape and it says empty. So we basically need to give our collision, our rigid body, or Steve in this matter, a shape. So we're going to hover over, click on empty, and it's going to give us tons of options here. We're going to go with circle shape because our image overall is going to be a circle. So we're going to hit on that and voila. We have a circle. We have this like bluish circle hovering over the x-axis here. If we go ahead and click on Steve, and then we're going to drag this into our scene because we don't want it in the middle. Let's see, if we were to hit play, nothing would move. In fact, if we keep... Now you're seeing this issue that is currently happening is I want to move both Steve and the computer, but only the computer keeps moving. So that can be very stubborn very quickly. To easily fix that, Steve is a little bit forgetful. We need to make sure we get both Steve and his computer to follow us because we need them in the middle of the background. So to fix that, we're going to go ahead and give Steve glue. We're going to glue him into his computer so that way we make sure he does his work. And how to give him glue is this little object children that basically makes selectable children not selectable. That's an excellent way to put it. Is it basically make sure Steve is attached to his computer and they both follow along. So that way we click on this box and now this little box shows up next to Steve. So that way if we click and move Steve, he comes along and his computer. That's fantastic. That's an easy way to do that. So you always want to click on this box, and then if we unclick it, that goes away. I like to call it as glue, so that way we glue basically the parents and the children come along. Case in point, Steve and his computer come along because we need him and his computer. We don't need him to sit him in a corner. He needs to be near us. All right. So if we were to hit play, nothing is going to happen because we don't have an image. I mean, the rigid body is going to do its job. Basically, Steve is doing his job, but we can't see Steve. We want to see him do his job. So basically, we know the solution to that. Let's give him an image. So we're going to go ahead and as Steve is hovered, we're going to hit that plus button. And I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but off to the right side, we've been clicking nodes. Godot has been keeping track on all the nodes we've been selecting. So Godot has this handy feature saying, hey, you've used Sprite before. In case you need it, it's going to be right here. That comes very in handy, so that way we don't have to painfully type it out and look for it. It's right there, so we can just simply click it. That's one of the small things I love about Godot, that the small things that just keep it organized. And this is why it's one of my favorite engines of all time. It's the small things here that I really appreciate. So we're going to go ahead and click on Sprite here. No need to search for it. Going to hit create. And once again, we've done this millions of times. We know what we're doing at this point. We need to give them an image, and we're going to click on puck.png. And once again, you guessed it, click and drag it into the textures tab. And voila, Steve now has an image. He is ready to hit the scene. So now if we hit play, we can actually see rigid body finally do its thing. We have given everything that Steve wants. We've given him a computer and we've given him an image. He is ready to finally do his job. Let's go ahead and hit that play button and let's see Steve in action. That's fantastic. As the definition as I gave you, rigid body makes an object give mass and weight, and that's exactly what's happening. He is falling in the screen. Falling with grace, if I say so myself. Alright, so we're halfway done here. We need to do now static body. We need to hire another employee, and we need him to basically just stand still. Easiest job in the world, am I right? So we're going to go back to main game. Remember, he's the main boss. And we're going to go ahead and hire another employee. And you guessed it, we're going to look for body. And we saw his resume before, so we're going to go ahead and look him up again. And hey, there you are. We saw your resume before. We felt like we didn't need you at the time, but now we need you. So static body, come on up. And then we go ahead and click on that. And just like Steve, static body is giving us issues already. We're going to rename him to Rick because, might as well stick to the whole, Rick. And Rick is basically complaining just like Steve, I can't function without a collision shape. Basically, he needs a computer too, or else he can't really do his job, honestly. So I understand. Let's go ahead and appoint him a computer. Let's go ahead and hit the plus button. Rick is highlighted, and we're going to go ahead and look for collision shape. And remember, like I said before, we've already searched this before. Godot keeps in track. We don't need to search for it. It's right there. Click on collision shape and hit create. And just like that, Rick has a computer as well. Just to stay up to theme, computer. Moving on, this is going to basically be the same thing as what we did with Steve. His computer isn't working. He needs a shape. So let's go ahead and do just that. And we're going to give him a circle shape because that's a shape that we're going to gun for. That's the image that I made. And it's the same thing. Rick, we need him glued to his computer. We're going to head and click glue. We're going to click and drag him right underneath Steve here because I'm going to show you what static body does. And with Rick highlighted, we're going to go ahead and assign an image for him or a sprite. And as again, Godot is keeping track of all the nodes we're using. We're using the same nodes again, so no need to go search for it. And let's go ahead and drag the bump.png into the textures tabs. We're going a little bit fast here because we've done this a million times at this point. Now it's created an image. Now we can't see our collision shape because Rick, it goes in order. It's his computer first and then its image. But Rick is a little selfish. He's all about his image. So we're going to click and drag sprite up first and then computer. Make sure, let me Control Z. Let me show you that one more time. You want to make sure you have a clear line and not like this. You see this square that's surrounding computer. If I were to let go of that, that sprite will become a child of the computer. It's basically going to be assigned under computer. We don't need that. So you want to drag it all the way up until you see this clear blue line right here, and then you let go. So that way image is first and then his computer, because Rick is a little selfish. So look at that. And now we can see the collision shape. Now I wanted to show you this because I'm going to show you what happened. So let's go ahead and hit play, and let's show you what static body does in motion. Let's hit play here. And bam, it stopped it and it rolled it along. Why? Because it's a circle shape. Static body is basically like a wall. It's stopping anything that hits it, and rigid body plays perfectly to that. Now let's go ahead and extend it. What happens if we make this larger? There are two ways to extend it. I'm going to show you the way I always do it, and it's just clicking this circle right here and making it larger. See? And then you're going to want to make it to as large as the image there. Way number two is basically you click on shape, and where it says circle shape, if you were to click on that, it gives you radius, and you can basically mess with that. You can bump it to 13, or maybe you can double click and do 15. You know, it kind of gets it. Whatever is convenient for you, go ahead and do that. Whatever is easiest for you. Again, I go with, you know, clicking and dragging. That's my main spread right there. And then if we hit play, let's see what happens now that the collision shape is a little bit bigger, you know. So we're going to go ahead and bam, it stopped it, but it did kind of roll along there. So that's fantastic. All right, we have our thing. Now we have the basic function of our Plinko game. Let's go ahead and make that. We're going to get Steve here, and we're going to drag him up. And then we're going to click on Rick, and Rick is going to mutate because we have hired a freak and he wants to clone himself. Or we are just a bad job employee and we hired a bunch of Ricks. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to drag Rick just right up above here, and we're going to kind of estimate here. And we're going to, while Rick is highlighted, let's go ahead and collapse this because we don't need this right now. While Rick is highlighted, we're going to hit Control D. And with Rick number 2 highlighted, we're going to drag Rick down, and we're going to kind of just look at that and make sure it's matching. Now, that could be painful and that could take a little bit longer, but there's an easier way to go about making sure it stays just center and just down below than the previous image. And that thing is called Smart Snap. If we click on that, now it's a little bit more better. So if we do it again, Control D on Rick number 2, make sure Rick number 2 is highlighted. Rick number 3 pops up, and then with Rick number 3 highlighted, we click and drag. And now that we have Smart Snap, it's kind of aligned. You see this red line that just popped up? It's aligned with the previous image, and that's exactly what we need. We can go ahead and move it a little bit up so that way we have it somewhat distance. I think that's a little bit more up. Go ahead and mess with that if you like. Fantastic. We're doing great. Now let's have Rick number 1 through 3. We're going to Control click and Control click, so that way we have all 3 Ricks highlighted. And we're going to duplicate all 3 of them, and then we're going to click and drag, and Rick's number 4 through 6 should be right here, and we're going to use that red guiding line here to space this out perfectly. And then we're going to do this once more, Control D, because we have Rick's 4 to 6 already highlighted, and then it's going to create numbers 8 through 10, and then we're going to click and drag once again, and we're doing very good. We're going to do this once more, Control D, and click and drag. And I think that is perfect. I think that is what I'm seeking. We're going to go ahead and maybe we should do one more. You know, why not? One more, Control D, because we're crazy. And that is good. Make sure you space it perfectly. And let's go ahead and test this out. Let's see what happens if we hit play. We have a bunch of Ricks. Our office is now filled with Ricks. And let's see here, and boom, voila, it's kind of jumping along. Fantastic. It's kind of looking like a Plinko, but not really, because if you've ever seen a Plinko, the puck kind of bounces a little bit. So we want to imitate that as close as we can. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to have our, let's go scroll up here, and we're going to have Steve here highlighted here. And we're going to go and we're going to assign him a physics material. So let's go ahead and expand, or hold on, let's close output because we don't need output right now. We're going to expand inspector just a bit more, and then we see a lot of properties here. There's a lot of things that rigid body can do. We see here mode rigid, we see mass, we see weight. There's a lot of things here. There's a lot of tools here to play with, but the thing that highlights more is physics material. As of right now, it's empty. So we're going to give physics material, we're going to check on that, and then it's going to give us an option for new physics material. You want to click on that, and then now it has a physics material. Click on the physics material, and voila. We have friction, rough, bounce, and absorbent. Now, the thing that attracts us the most is bounce. And like I said, if we remember Plinko, it kind of simulates a little bounce when it hits those little like rungs as it comes down. That's what we want to simulate. So we're going to go ahead and mess with that. We're going to click on bounce. It's 0 right now. We're going to bump it to 1. Let's see what happens. So we're going to hit play, and whoa, it's bouncing like crazy. It's doing just that. It's bouncing and then it's bouncing, and wow, it's stuck. We're gonna move it just a little bit more dead center here, and okay, now let's hit play again. All right, and it's too bouncy. Yeah, it's too bouncy. So let's change that. So let's go ahead and let's bump that down. Let's do 0.5. Let's see how it acts if it's 0.5, because we don't want it too bouncy, you know. And there you go, kind of bouncy, kind of. You know, we might have to mess with the placement of Ricks, but let's bump this down a bit. Maybe let's do 0.2. Again, we don't need too much bounce, you know. And yeah, that's kind of good. Let's mess with Rick's placement. I feel like that's the big issue here, is Rick isn't really placed that well. So we need Rick 7, we need Rick 8. We don't need it highlighted. We need Rick 7, we need Rick 8, and we need Rick 9. And let's go ahead and move Rick a little bit more closer. Maybe not, you know, we okay, let's go ahead and see what happens if we hit play. It's stuck. That's too close. Okay, let's go ahead and Control Z, maybe. Let's see here. Move them just. So at this point, I'm just messing around here with the settings here. That kind of works, kind of doesn't. What happens if we shift Rick 7, 8, and 9 a little bit more down? And let's see what happens if we do that. So let's see here. Oh, perfect. It's kind of simulating what we are looking for. That's perfect. So we're gonna go ahead and mess with that. Let's see here. Let's move it just a bit more. Maybe that's doing too much. Let's see here. No, that's doing too much. It was kind of good the way it was. You know. Okay, so this is going to take forever, basically, but we are going to place it to where it makes sense. It's a little more better here. Let's see here. Maybe not too much. All right. So that's what I want you to do. Is I'm giving you a little assignment, and all you have to do at this point is mess around. Go ahead and move the Ricks into a form that suits you, a form that doesn't make the ball too, you know, convenient, and then just drag the ball here into these rungs and kind of simulate that bounce here. There you go. You know, kind of mess with the placements here. I'm going to mess with it myself. That's going to take forever. In the next video, I will have my version of what I want, but just to have a little fun here until the next video is posted, go ahead and mess with your placement of Ricks. Remember, you can click and drag and make sure this glue is on. Make sure Rick's glue is on, because if it's not on, then it's going to drag a lot of things separate. So you want to make sure you click on this little icon here and make sure Rick is highlighted, so that way the glue is on, and then you can move everything. I want you to mess around with the placements of the static bodies here, so that way you can kind of simulate your own like maze-like rungs for like a Plinko. You know how Plinko looks like. If you don't know what it looks like at this point, you can Google it and kind of maybe get your own thought on how, you know, theirs looks like. And I'm going to have my own version. I'm going to create one. So in the next video, you'll see my version right off the bat when the video starts. But that is basically it. I've shown you what a rigid body does. I've shown you what a static body does. And believe it or not, we're halfway done with our game. All we need to do is add some pizzazz, add some cool things here to make the game more lively, and that's what we're going to do in the next video. In the next video, I'm going to show you the animation player node. We're going to use that, and then we are going to start coding. That's right. We're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to start coding. I promise you, I'm not going to surround you with a wall of text. We're going to take this one step at a time. If you don't know much about coding, don't worry. I will guide you. I will show you some simple code, and we'll go along. I'll explain like the basics. I'm getting ahead myself here. Next video, you'll see what I have planned for you. I do hope you enjoyed this video. It was fun making it. Again, your assignment is to make your own like setup of your Plinko rings here, or Ricks here. Make sure you mess around with Rick here and have them placed in a way that isn't too convenient for the puck here, and it's bouncing back and forth here, but it's still following down. So go ahead and mess with that, and I'll mess with it as well, and then that'll be set up in the next video. My name is GhostBit. If you have any questions, please comment down below. If you want to go ahead and show me what you have, go ahead and let me know. Follow me on Twitter. I am maybe planning a Discord. I'm not really sure. I mean, it makes sense if I do have a Discord. So that way you guys can ask me any questions. Let me know if you're interested in that, because I might set one up. Otherwise, that's it. Make sure you're subscribed. We have plenty more fun videos coming up in the future, and I have lots more tutorials up ahead in the future as well. This is GhostBit, and I will see you in the next video.